One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together. And it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's Bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. So I did a Facebook Live training the other day on this topic, and I thought, this is something that we really need to talk about, because I think that Facebook Live only ended up being like 10 or 15 minutes, and I just don't think I went deep enough into this concept. So I wanted to bring it to you today. Of course, I'll link to it in the show notes where you can actually go watch it, my original idea for this, but I want to expound on how a podcast can influence your business in 2020. So let's just jump right into it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Because if you've been thinking about creating a podcast for a while, well, I'm so glad you found this show. Think of this as the shortcut / time-saving version of searching Google and YouTube for hours and hours trying to figure out the world of podcasting. Trust me, as a busy mama of 3, I get it. You don't have a lot of time to be spent or wasted, I should say, searching the web, trying to find all the right ideas and all the amazing things that are out there, and you just end up overwhelmed. Trust me, I've been there, done that, took home the souvenir. But this podcast is going to help you in practical ways, because twice a week we'll be delivering episodes that are going to give you steps to help you create a podcast your audience can't wait to listen to. So let's get right to it, shall we? So like I said, I recently did a training on this. I wanted to really dive deeper into how a podcast can influence your business in 2020. And you can go to the Profit Podcast online community. It's our Facebook group if you want to go see that actual live video, or like I said, it'll be in the show notes for this episode. But I really just wanted to just dive into some of the practical topics that have to do with a podcast and a business, because a lot of y'all are either entrepreneurs and you already have a business, or you want to start creating content that eventually turns into a moneymaker or a business or a side hustle or whatever you want to call it. So today I want to really dive deep into 3 topics, 3 ways that a podcast can influence your business in 2020. So the first one that I talked about in this training that I did is growing your audience and your influence. So how can a podcast actually grow your audience or your influence? Well, there's a really cool thing that happens once you put yourself out there. Like, just by launching a podcast, you are automatically in a different category of people that tends to take themselves more seriously than someone who's just kind of dabbling. Does that make sense? Like, if I notice someone is just selling a product, then I'm like, okay, cool, they have a business. But if I see that someone is creating weekly content, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube, a blog, like whatever, if they are doing that on a consistent basis, then I'm like, man, like they're into it. Like they get it. They're committed. There's a lot more than just someone who throws up a in business sign and is like, yeah, we're open. So I want you to think about that as we go into diving deeper, that by just showing up and launching a podcast, you are automatically in a different category in a consumer's mind. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to kind of establish. But once you put that stake in the ground that says, I'm the expert in whatever your podcast topic is, or I am becoming a leader in my industry of blank, then people start taking you seriously. And honestly, it helps you take yourself seriously. If you feel like, well, I've been doing, let's say you already had a business for a long time, you were a consultant of some sort, and you've been kind of taking yourself seriously. You're like, yeah, I mean, I know what I'm talking about, but you don't feel as confident in your messaging. Like that makes you a little like, yeah, I mean, I do. I know how to do this, but I think I can deliver this message. Well, once you just start doing it, your confidence, like your head will be held higher and your shoulders go back when you start talking about something, because when you talk about something as much as you do on a podcast, if you are publishing weekly content, you just get to know your audience better and you get to know the material better. And you're not like, oh, I haven't talked about this in 6 months, so I don't really know what the standard practices are or how this really works. Like, no, if you're podcasting, you know what's going on in your industry, or you know the things that your audience wants to hear you talk about. So I kind of got off like on a tangent, but I wanted to say that as we go into this topic, because I think it's really important to know that in order to grow your audience and your influence, my watch is making all kinds of noise, and normally I put it on silent, but I did not today, so I apologize. Hang on, this is taken care of now. We're good. We're in theater mode. For all of you people, if you have an Apple Watch accessory, if you put it in theater mode while you're podcasting, you will not have crazy beeps and all kinds of other things. But okay, back to the topic at hand, okay? We are talking about growing your audience and growing your influence. So in order to do that with a podcast, which is the whole reason for my rant a second ago, you have to show up on a regular basis. Like, y'all have heard me, if you've been listening for a while, you've heard me say this over and over and over again. You have to be consistent. Consistency is key to podcasting. I've recently, I hit over 100 podcast episodes, and I've had so many people say to me like, wow, how'd you do it? And a lot of people believe that I've been podcasting a lot longer than I have because I have so many podcast episodes. But the reality is I've been doing this since May of 2008 is when I first started. Like, I wrote it down in my journal and I said, I'm going to start a podcast. But y'all, in the last year and a half, I have lived and breathed podcasting. Okay, like if you don't believe me, go ask my kids. What does your mommy do? She has a microphone and she podcasts. If you ask them what a podcast is, they may or may not know, but they know mommy has a podcast. She goes into the closet and she talks to herself a lot. So yeah, that's what my kids know about me. I live and I breathe this stuff. So with all of that being said, I have established myself as an expert in podcasting because it is something that I truly believe in and I am dedicated to. So how does that help me grow my audience or grow my influence? Well, I've become known for one thing. This one thing that I'm doing. I'm not trying to write books. I'm not trying to teach people how to manage their time as a mom with.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants.
Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
3 kids. I'm not trying to share recipes. I'm not trying to show people how to work out. I'm not these are all other things that I'm super passionate about. And I would love to talk, you come have coffee with me. We can talk about all these things, but I don't talk about those on this podcast on a regular basis because that's not what I want to be known for. I don't want to be known for the Jane of all trades, right? That she knows how to do this and she knows how to do, I want to be known for one thing, and that is podcasting. And the way you grow your audience and your influence with a podcast is to stick to one thing. Okay. So that was a whole roundabout way of saying, in order to grow your audience and your influence, you have to be known for one thing. One thing. And that's the hardest part of this entire process, is nailing it. It's so simple in nature, right? To just pick one. Okay, I'm just going to pick one thing and I'm going to go. But for you people out there that have so many passions and so many things that you want to talk about, it's hard. It's super, trust me, I've been there. I had a podcast for almost a year. Let me see. It was about 10 months. And then I decided to switch directions. And the first podcast was very divided. It kind of had a little bit of everything. And I can see that once I put that stake in the ground and said, nope, I'm just going to talk about this. My guests are going to be about this. Our mindset is going to be about this. Every piece of content I create on social media, everything is going to revolve around podcasting. So in order to do that and become known in your space and grow your audience and your influence, you have to put that stake in the ground, because then once you do that, now we can get down to the actual practical things that you can do to grow your audience and your influence with a podcast. Because once you've put that stake in the ground, you can reach out to other communities and have somewhere to send them. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you can go be a guest on someone's podcast, someone's YouTube channel, someone's Facebook Live. You could do an Instagram takeover, whatever it is. But once you have a podcast in place, you can actually send those people somewhere. You're not just sending them to go check out the about section of my website. I mean, come on. Unless people know you, they don't really care about any of that. Unless you have something that they want on your website, they don't care. But if you tell them, oh, you have this problem, my podcast solves that problem. You want to know how? I always go back to the real estate example. I don't know why. It's just the easiest one that I don't know what it is. But if I'm a real estate agent and I tell people, oh, you're struggling with when I'm ready to buy a rental property, oh yeah, go check out my podcast, because I interviewed someone who was struggling with the same thing, and we talked the whole way through it, like everything you need to know about taxes and renter's insurance and all the things. I'm totally making this up on the spot, but it sounds good, right? It sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I really don't. So yeah, do not come to me for real estate advice. That is not my jam. But it helps me be able to tell other people, like, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and it gives you the confidence to reach out to other people and actually say, hey, I want to be a guest on your podcast. This is my specialty. This is what I do, and I would love to share this free advice, this free content with your audience. And that is how you will be able to grow your influence and your own audience. But it also gives you the ability to have a solid content producing platform. And again, this goes back to people knowing you. It's that traditional know, like, and trust factor, right? If people see you being consistent, if they see, like, man, she's just gone all in, she's like crazy enthusiastic about podcasting, which is so funny because I get that look all the time when people ask me in person or on video. They ask me about podcasting, and they're like, I physically see your face light up. You geek out about this stuff. And I'm like, well, it's because I live and I breathe it every single day. So it gives you the ability to have that just solid platform of, this is who I am, this is what I do. And it allows you to engage with more people once you put your stake in the ground. Like, this is my podcast. These are the audience members that I'm talking to, and these are the type of guests that we have on our podcast. So it allows, like, just putting that out in the universe, being very specific of the people you want to interact with. Those people will naturally start gravitating towards you. It's just this cool thing that happens once you get super specific on your audience and your guests and the people that you want to talk to. Cool things start to happen. Okay, so I know that was a long number one, but number one on how a podcast can influence your business in 2020, it can help you grow your audience and your influence. But again, you got to be super specific on what you're talking about. So the second thing, which kind of piggybacks off of that, is it can help you increase your awareness. And by awareness, I mean your brand awareness and your message awareness. So it can 100% bring light the topic that your podcast is about, and it also establishes you as an expert in your field or your industry. Going back to, you just put that stake in the ground and you've said, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is my message. And when you do that, people will naturally gravitate towards you. So how can all of this influence your business? It's going to make you the person that people want to go talk to, someone who is being very giving and very sharing and very generous with their time and their content and their energy. And yeah, it takes a while. I've had a lot of people say, like, oh, like, my podcast numbers aren't that great. And they've released 4 episodes and it's been, 6 weeks. And they're just kind of like, they want to give up after a month of podcasting, or my numbers aren't what I thought they were going to be. And I'm like, well, if you didn't have a platform to begin with, then yeah, your numbers probably aren't going to be very good. If it's just you and your mom listening, or, you and 2 friends from, people you went to high school with, like, yeah, your numbers are probably going to suck for a while. And that's just the hard truth. That's how it was for me, guys. I had, I guess, a little bit of an audience because I had been blogging for a while, trying to figure out what I was blogging about. And again, I probably had 5 or 6 people from high school that were probably being nosy more than anything, right? If they're probably listening to this podcast now saying, wait, she's calling me out for being nosy. Yes, I'm calling you out for being nosy because you just want to know what I'm doing. And that's fine. I don't care. You can hang out. Just don't send me crazy messages or anything. But anyway, I feel like we're getting into dangerous territory. I'm like asking for, I don't want to put that out into the universe, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have an audience, you don't have a current platform, and you're just getting started, it's going to take a while. There is no such thing as an overnight success. So don't bank on that happening. Like, don't have that. If somebody put that thought in your head, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's a lie and it's false. And I really wish people would stop saying that if you start a podcast, like if you build it, they will come. You have to do the work. You have to promote your content and you have to put yourself out there in order to get in front of more people. But once you do, once you've established, like you put your stake in the ground, you've established yourself as the go-to person in your industry, man, y'all, I'm telling you, the brand awareness that happens once you really do that is astronomical. I'm going to say that again. Once you put that stake in the ground, your ability to increase your brand awareness can be astronomical. That is what I have experienced. Because again, I'm not talking about 10 different things. I'm not talking about writing and exercising and recipes and time management and being a mom. Like, I'm not talking about all of those things. I'm talking about one thing, one clearly defined thing. And because I'm doing that, the brand awareness for this podcast and the topic that I'm talking about has increased astronomically. So that is what a podcast can do for you as well and for your business in 2020. So that's something to think about. If you've been thinking, like you're on the fence, you're like, I think I want to start a podcast. I like, you know, Crystal's given me some great advice. I think it sounds really good, but I just don't know if I'm ready. You're ready. You're ready. Okay, stop second guessing it. Don't think that you have to have everything figured out, because I still don't have like every single piece of the puzzle put together in the correct place. Okay, I feel like I started with a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, which I can say that because I've confidently completed 2 of those this summer. I was really proud of myself. But we finished a 1,000-piece jigsaw, and you know what? It took me forever to figure out the border. Okay? That's what I always start with. I always start with the border of a jigsaw puzzle. And then I pick a certain color that I want to look for. And I'm like, oh, like most of this is in this region. So I'm going to do this region, okay? And then, oh, I think this is part of this truck over here. So I'm going to figure that out. Oh, and then there's this picnic table, and oh, this is part of the trees. Like, you slowly piece it together over time. So if you feel like you have to have everything figured out, everything put in the right place, all of your guests scheduled for the next year, all of your topics done, like all you don't. You just have to get going. You have to take the puzzle out of the box. And that is just launching it and putting it out there. And things start to bloom and blossom over time. And then you may go in a totally different direction than what you originally thought. But this is like my motto of 2019, because I heard it this year and it's just stuck with me through everything that I do. But it's Marie Forleo saying, start before you're ready. And clarity comes from engagement, not thought. Because maybe you're thinking things are supposed to be a certain way, or you're thinking, I want it to go this way or that way. But once you get in there, you get in the trenches, you realize, oh, this is how I really want it to be. Or, oh, this process doesn't work. I'm going to try something new. Guys, that's what happened for me. I started blogging and it did not work out well for me. And then it wasn't until I just happened to order a $20 microphone off of Amazon, and I said, you know what, I'm going to switch this thing on and just see what happens. And I realized everything just like flew out of me. It just flowed so naturally. That's when I realized I'm not a blogger. I am a speaker. And even to this day, and I've told you this before, but Google Docs, it has voice typing, and that is how I write the majority of the things. If you read something online that is written by me, it's probably written through a Google Doc using voice typing, so I'm actually speaking it. So don't think that you're like everything that you think in your head, like that's how everything is going to be. Nope, you just got to get started. You just got to get started. Start before you're ready, and just start recording something, anything. Even if it's just you talking about all the ideas that it doesn't matter. Just hit record, start doing it. Do it on the voice memos on your phone. Do it on your laptop. I don't care where you do it. I don't care how it sounds. Just start talking. You can figure the rest of it out later. That's like the first piece of the puzzle. That's like you laying down that first piece saying, you know what? This is a corner piece and it's the foundation of where I'm going to start. Oh, I love this puzzle metaphor. That's really good. Y'all, this wasn't even in my outline to talk about this, but it's really good and I'm going to run with it. Okay. So the third way that a podcast can influence your business in 2020 is it can help you create deeper connections with your audience. And for me, this is me speaking as a listener of many podcasts because I'm a podcast junkie. I looked the other day, I thought I was only subscribed to like 10 or 12, but no, I am subscribed. I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I'm like, should I tell them? Should I not tell them? I think it was 46. I am subscribed to 46 different podcasts. Now, to be fair, I do not listen to all of them every single time a new episode is published. Some of those are ones that I wanted to check out, but I never went back and listened to. So I probably need to go do some cleanup. But y'all, that's 46. So I do have a pretty good frame of reference of how other people do their podcasts. It's not like I'm just sitting here talking to you from, this is the only podcasting I know. Like, I listen to a lot of other podcasts, but I can tell you that the connection that I feel with those other podcast hosts, y'all, it's almost like this intimate experience. Like, it's not just me at the gym or in the car listening. Like, I am having a full-blown experience listening to a podcast. And it's an intimate connection that you make with another person through those earbuds that cannot be replicated anywhere else. It really can't. Like, I think that video is super powerful and I think it's amazing. But when I'm watching a YouTube video, 99% of the time, I'm either getting ready, I'm cooking, I'm doing the dishes, I'm folding laundry, I'm usually doing something else. But, and like, I'm easily distracted. If something happens, then I'll have to pause it and I'll come back to it. And it may even be 20 or 30 minutes before I come back and finish watching like a 5-minute video, which is pretty sad, but it's life. It's what happens. But when I'm listening to a podcast, most of the time I'm in the gym, I'm on the treadmill, I'm in my car, I'm driving for a long time, and there's no distraction. It's just kind of my brain is on autopilot, running or driving or whatever task that I'm doing or getting ready. But I feel a deep connection with the person that is speaking. I feel like they are speaking directly to me and me alone. And that is the kind of connection I want you to have with your audience. That is what a podcast can do for you. So just imagine, let's go back to being a real estate agent, right? Just imagine if I was a realtor and I was trying to sell the most homes that I've ever sold in 2020. How can I do that? Well, I can make better connections with the people that I want to serve. Even the people that they don't even end up buying homes for me. Y'all know, if you've ever known anyone that's in real estate, like, real estate's all about the referrals, right? Like, it's all about you serving someone so well that they don't even care to buy a house from you, but they're going to tell 5 of their friends. They're going to say, oh, you live in this area? You got to go see Sheila. Like, Sheila's the girl to talk to. Or you want to go buy something, in Austin, then you got to go talk to Ryan. You want to buy something in Dallas, then you need to go talk to Jesse. Like, all the things, right? Like, these are the things that your business are built on. They are built on you making those connections with people. And I truly, truly believe that a podcast is one of the most intimate connections that you can make with another person without ever actually meeting them in person. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to meet you and hug your neck. Like, if we ever have a chance to meet in person, please come up and introduce yourself and say, hey, like, I listen to your podcast and all the things, and you want to buy me some coffee. I love it. I told y'all before, Starbucks gift cards are my jam, and the holidays are coming up, so I super appreciate it. No, I'm totally kidding. But if we do see each other, I mean, just offer. Let's go for I'm always down for coffee, no matter the time of day. But anyway, all of that to be said is you can create intimate connections with your people by having a podcast. And it's just, your listeners appreciate it. I can tell you right now, if I were to listen, I can think of like 5 or 6 podcast hosts that I listen to on a regular basis. If I were to see them in person, I would feel like I already know them, like almost to the point where I'd probably freak them out a little bit, because I'm like, oh yeah, I know your dog's name, and I know your husband's name, and I know your kids' names, and they're going to be like, oh, well, restraining order, this person. But it's one of those things because they've shared themselves so generously, and they've just delivered so much value that it's impacted me in a really big way, and I appreciate it, and it sticks with me. So that is the type of impact that you can have with a podcast for your business for 2020. And it's at least a starting point. Like, I just wanted to share those 3 things with you. So let me go over them again. So how a podcast can influence your business in 2020. It can grow your audience and your influence. It can increase the awareness of your brand and your topic. And number 3, it can help you create those deeper connections with your audience. So if you are wanting to start a podcast in 2020, I'm inviting you to a masterclass that I'm doing in the first week of December. So if you're listening to this on the replay, then the masterclass is only going to be offered a few times in December 2019. But I want to go ahead and invite you to take this first step with me. It's totally free. It's 100% like totally free masterclass. But it's all about the 3 steps, the 3 strategies that you can implement to fill the first 5 to 6 months of your 2020 calendar. So if you're thinking, I want to use what Crystal's talking about to influence my business, like with a podcast in 2020, then you need to be in this masterclass, because a lot of times people tell me that the content is what overwhelms them. They're like, oh man, I can't think of, like, I struggle with, okay, I thought of, 2 great topics, but then I don't know what else to talk about. Or I gave my audience my best content in my first 10 episodes. Now I have no idea what to say. Or, Crystal, I'm just blank. Like, I know a podcast is what I want to do, but I don't even know where to start. You need to be in this masterclass. So to register, you can go to the show notes and click on the link there, but it's at crystalprofit.com/masterclass. And again, this is only going to be available the first week, the first 2 weeks of December, I believe. We're going to have 4, and all the times and everything is there. But make sure you go to crystalprofit.com/masterclass to check it out and register, and let me know what you think of it. If you're listening on the replay and you hear this later, then let me know what you think of the masterclass. It's going to be amazing. I've been working on it for basically 4 weeks, and it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited about it, but that's all I have for you today. So if this is your first time tuning in, I so appreciate you being here. If you would, I would really love it if you would go to wherever you're listening to this podcast and leave us a rating and a review. Take a screenshot, share it out on social media, and tag me. I'm at Crystal Profit TX, Crystal with a K, Profit with 2 F's and 2 T's, and TX like Texas, because, I'm a Texas girl. You can hear it in my accent. This is where I'm from. This is where I live. It is part of me. But you can go check out the show notes at crystalprofit.com/episode 103 and go register for the masterclass and see all the other things that we talked about here today. And make sure you sign up for our free 5-day podcast bootcamp if you haven't checked that out already. And of course, the resource library has tons, like everything, the ultimate podcast checklist and how to start a podcast and ways to monetize your podcast and all the things. So go check out the resource library. And that's all I have for y'all today. So remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Crystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message. And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.